President Trump takes an unprecedented step. Iowa could lighten gun laws while Congress tries to get tougher on them. And Illinois makes its move on the minimum wage. All things to talk about with Democratic political consultant Porter McNeil and Iowa Republican Party Chair Jeff Kaufman. Welcome both back to the program.
Good to see you.
We're going to start with the minimum wage. Here's how it will phase in over the next few years. 2 bumps next year, then $1 a year increases after that until 2025 to get to that $15 an hour. The law does include tax credits for small businesses as an effort to offset the blow to them. Now, we've heard the arguments. We'll get to see how it plays out in terms of impact ultimately. I guess the bigger question is, does this begin a domino effect? And what happens to states like Iowa, where Republicans made it clear they're not interested in raising the minimum wage? In fact, some counties tried to, and the Republicans blocked them. Jeff Kaufman?
Well, I'm not hearing any rumblings of raising the minimum wage. You know, in the midst of a legislative session and having been in that body, you surprisingly aren't paying a lot of attention to other states at that time.
Sure.
I think if there's any spillover, I think it would probably be the next session after that. I've actually been in a minimum wage debate in the legislature before, ended up voting yes for that. I cannot see a scenario where Iowa would go $15. And be honest with you, it'd be hard for me to conceive that even with Democrats in charge in Iowa. But obviously with the Republicans in charge, I don't see that as a goal at all.
But this is the type of thing that can set the stage for other states, especially a state as big as Illinois?
Right. Well, I think so. And I think, you know, at the offset, it may seem as a negative to business, but in the long run, look at this as a 5 to 6 year phase-in program. So by the year 2024, 2025, I think $15 an hour will not be viewed as something so dramatically high. Plus, it puts a few extra dollars in the pockets of people. You know the arguments. It attracts happy workers, quality workers. You know, so it's really more of a rising tide argument, and not a race to the bottom, but a race to the top. And I think it could attract new people to Illinois and create new economic development, which goes against the grain of the initial headlines here locally.
Do you think that Iowa is something that they would possibly take up in the years to come?
We've discussed it in the past. We have had a debate in the House of Representatives. I know when I was there, I'm not necessarily opposed to a debate, but I think we have to be careful to look at it as a panacea. There are certainly some negative spillovers if you talk to these small business owners, and I think
they did try to build an offset. Certainly.
They did, and I think as long as the debate takes place with caution, I don't know that they would be averse to it. Definitely don't see it happening this year.
We are seeing different legislation at the state and federal levels relating to gun rights in Congress. Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee adopted legislation to require stronger background checks for all gun sales and most gun transfers in the country. We haven't seen anything like that in more than a decade. It might clear the House, but certainly less likely in the Senate. Iowa, though, could go the other way. There's a proposal in Des Moines that would eliminate the requirement to obtain a permit to buy or carry a gun in the state for, quote, law-abiding citizens. I guess the question I have really on something like this is, how disconnected are we as a society when it's clear neither party seems to be able to find common ground on issues like when it comes to guns specifically here? Porter?
Well, you know, I think in rural areas, perhaps this idea makes more sense in Iowa, but I think in general, on the 1-year anniversary of the Parkland shooting, the direction we're moving in is at least toward a minimum level of licensing and background checks. I think there's a community interest, a state interest, and a national interest in a minimum level, and that's kind of I think the mood of the country at this time. I think it's common sense, and I'm afraid that if this bill in Des Moines passes, it will make it easier for illegal guns to fall into dangerous hands.
What's your take, Jeff?
Hundreds of bills are filed every year. This is about the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this bill emerge. And each time
does it make final typically?
It hasn't in the past, to be honest with you. I think this will spark a debate. I mean, it sparked a debate here, and I think that's healthy. I think it has an uphill climb.
The bigger question I had, though, is just the divergence as a society. When we talk about what's going on in Congress and then see in Iowa, that we can't find the common ground of willingness on an issue. When everyone says they're against gun violence and the things that happen to that, your take?
I think the common ground is also going to have to involve factors of dealing with mental health properly, making sure that our process of mental health, the funding for mental health is there. Solving issues like Parkland is going to have to go much, much deeper than either what the federal Congress is doing or even what the Iowa legislature.
Well, there's got to be a broad discussion, which we really haven't seen to this point. We saw a little common ground ground, though, in Washington, D.C. this week. Democrats and Republicans agree they don't want another government shutdown. The president willing to sign the spending bill to do it, despite not getting the money he wants for a border wall. However, he declared a national emergency for immigration and will use money from Treasury and Defense to pay for it. At least that's what he says he's going to do. There have been national emergencies declared before, though not something on an issue like this. So how about the kind of precedent this sets? What's to stop a Democratic, president in the future from doing it for another partisan issue that are really popular among Democrats, let's say health care, for example? Are we opening the door to abuse of power here, Jeff?
Well, I would hesitate to call this a partisan issue. I mean, every single Democrat that's saying no to this wall dollars have voted for it in the past. If it's partisan, I think it's timely partisan.
I'm talking about the issue of declaring a national emergency, though, on an issue like this.
Well, I mean, President Obama did a lot of unilateral executive orders. It seems to me sometimes that the protesting that occurs when Donald Trump does something I didn't hear the same kind of protest for that kind of unilateral executive action when President Obama did that. I think there is a justification to be made that this is a national emergency, protecting our borders. I don't know what's more fundamental than that in terms of that national emergency. Can it set a precedent? Yes, it can. It can. I think I'd be hard-pressed to say that people trying to move into our country illegally is the same kind of national pressure that you might have in terms of how we deliver health care, though I think that might be a stretch if the Democrats
I'm just pointing out that there are issues that are passionate on both ends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that when you have a national emergency, you should debate it in Congress. He had a chance in Congress, so I don't think it's a healthy precedent. I think that today's emergency may become a Democratic emergency, and you're going to hear a lot of hollering from the Republicans. So I think Congress has control of the purse, the budget, and I think if you want to win the debate, you need to have effective leadership. Effective leadership should have been done when he worked with Congress, not going around Congress. When President Obama tried executive orders on smaller matters, there was a lot of yelling about misuse of executive authority. So, it goes both ways.
It cuts both ways. And
Right,
definitely,
right.
there are some even backdoor conversations I'm hearing from some reporting that even Republicans in Congress are saying, well, maybe we should watch our step. But we will certainly see how it plays out, of course. Quickly, some presidential politics before we go. Here are the 11 Democrats officially running for president as we record this program. 6 women. And we know this list could get larger. I guess, what's the likelihood the nominee will be one of these? And one more thing, despite not winning in 2016, how much did Hillary Clinton's loss actually turn out to be that break that glass ceiling by giving more women the confidence to run?
I think it's great to see so many women early in the race and high quality women. I think the Democrats have a wealth of talent so far in the race. I think, as Jeff knows, the race will kind of winnow out the quality, the campaign structure, those who have momentum, those who are raising money, those who are getting media.
Do you think the nominee will be one of those 11 that we just showed up there?
It's too early to say. There's still some big names that are hovering around.
Joe Biden,
Joe Biden's
Sherrod
hovering,
Brown,
and there's
yeah.
some Sherrod Brown. There's some others.
Jeff, I mean,
Oh,
you
Lord.
love watching this stuff. I know.
I
Even if it's
do.
not your party, you love to watch this
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely. And and here's the thing: the Iowa caucuses are going to play a role, a bigger role this year for the Democrats. And I sincerely wish my Democratic colleagues best wishes, because I think they're equipped to handle that decision just like Republicans were last year.
Do you think the Hillary Clinton factor 4 years ago is a factor into how many women are running now?
I do, and I think it's a good thing. Anytime we have a first female governor in Iowa, first female senator, it has been wonderful to see the role model in either party and how that truly inspires, now with fact behind it, that it can be done for young women all across this country. It's a good thing.
Jeff Kaufman, Porter McNeil, thanks for the insight. A lot to watch to be for sure in the next few months.